Live from TableTop Games and Hobbies, sitting on a hemorrhoid pillow. I'm your host, Randy Glenn, and with me as always, Ryan Moore.
I too am sitting on a hemorrhoid pillow.
I think the only person, no, Rob probably is. Rob?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope, because Rob didn't play.
Yeah,
And
Rob didn't play.
I won my game last week, so
he's
I'm good.
So I got my poop thoroughly pushed in. So I'm sitting on a pillow because my butt hurts, which is okay. It's okay. It's all right. So
fickle bitches that way.
God dang it. You got it.
Straight out of the gate.
He got it right out of the gate. So tonight, big news for us.
And I wasn't even introduced and got it in.
Yeah,
Yes.
you did.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's why you're not getting it.
Yeah, that's why you're not getting it. So, big news for us today. We're gonna tournament season is back out. We're gonna talk about that and possibly get into some terrain talk. So
Tough talking terrain.
tough talk of terrain. This will be a good episode. So June 19th,
Juneteenth.
in Overland Park, Kansas. Here at
66212.
Yep, here at TableTop Games and Hobby, we will be throwing our first little one-day tournament.
Yep.
300 points.
Yep, 300 points, ITS. Haven't figured out the cost for entry or the missions, but that's what you people on the radio are for.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know we decided
Oh, yeah.
that. I didn't know we decided on ITS.
Just now.
I thought we were gonna.
No, he decided.
He
upon
decided.
it.
I decided.
Well, Ryan and I haven't had
When
a
you
vote
don't
yet.
introduce me, this is what happens.
Well,
I start going off the rails.
Well, you don't have
Do you
a
want
pillow.
to should I mute him?
Yeah,
Do
we
you
should.
want me-
And the mute button. So let's talk about it. So the tournament. Okay, so what you're saying is that you're in favor of an ITS event?
I'm in favor of running ITS missions because that is what is
Okay.
more or less universal.
Okay. Ryan.
Oh, I thought you were getting ready to say something.
No, that
as
was-
if like
that-
Moses coming down from the mount.
No, that was me leaning back and popping my back.
Oh.
Because he's gonna put it back into it.
Yeah, come
You
on,
can do it, put your back into it. You can do it, put your back into it. Don't do it to it.
We are 2 minutes in and we are totally off the rails.
We are. We
Like,
usually are.
multiple times.
Well, I have a Dr. Pepper here with real cane
yeah.
sugar. Yeah.
Which also could be cocaine. We don't know.
We don't know.
because it was in a glass bottle.
Yeah, we don't know. Drunken history is a great thing.
I think for our first one, ITS is fine.
Okay, ITS missions.
Yeah.
I mean, I just run ITS.
Just run the ITS.
Just run
Yeah.
it as
Yeah.
ITS? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, for
I've
our
got
first
code.
one, just get it back.
Yeah, so I will put that into the Corvus Belly system.
I mean, it's
And
not
I
as
will-
exciting for Randy because he
So,
wants
all right.
other. But let's just start getting people back
Back
in
in?
and coming,
Yeah.
and then when we get more people, then we start doing some crazy
Right.
shenanigans,
Sounds good. I'm down. I'm down.
Down with
some
that.
reach around
I'm down with
tournaments.
the clown.
So
Some
for the missions, are we gonna do a poll?
No.
No.
Com log right here, right now.
You know what we
Thanks,
should do?
Mike
You know what we should do? You know what we should do right now?
What?
We should
What?
do comlog 3 times, and those are our missions.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike Byer.
Good.
And Ryan is
Decapitation. Oh, that's
Oh, that's a good
Decapitation. Good. That's mission 1. Decapitation. Mission 1. Mission 2.
Acquisition.
Acquisition. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Come on, mind wipe.
No, we're not doing power pack. That's too many damn
Yeah, that's
objectives.
that's a lot of objectives.
All right, that's our redo. That's our mulligan one.
Yeah,
Firefight.
Firefight. Got it.
Okay.
Oh wow, so it's just straight
It's
up
straight up
killing.
killing.
It's straight up killing.
Oh, a lot of murder,
This is
death,
the-
kill.
This is the personal 5 per kill event.
This is going to be a great
Well,
one for your list if you
actually-
take the actual one they built for you.
So on the last episode, we talked about doing a tournament event for Brian, right?
Yep.
Which all the blood for the blood sow.
Okay, I mean, I'm okay. The
Yeah.
name needs a little work, but I like it. Name needs a little work.
Well, no. So
I get the thing.
yeah, because
I'm with
he's
you. No, I
yeah,
get you.
you good?
I'm
all right.
I'm-
So, but there's people at home that may not be with us.
No, I understand.
Everyone is with us, Rob.
Everyone.
This is
Yeah,
this is the way.
everywhere.
This is the way. So
This
yeah.
is the man.
You said that about the list, but I've been tinkering with that list, and I might have something else. And
So for those of you that may not have caught the exchange between Ryan and Randy and Ryan have kibitzed on a list because that's what they do. If you listen to the Baby Seal
Again, he
episode,
wants to convince on the list.
no, you two are the ones. Rewind.
well, you know what? Here,
rewind
listen,
the
you know-
tape, Senator.
you know-
Yeah.
rewind
Okay.
the tape,
Yeah.
Senator.
So
the problem
so
is-
Randy has some questions about a list for a faction
still-
he's never played and for only playing his second game in 2 years. Rob. Oh. What's your excuse again?
Yeah.
I don't have any excuses. I'm just saying that there's collusion.
That's all they need. You know what? We're gonna have an episode where that's all you're. When we introduce you, you have to go, and we throw fish at you, and you catch it.
And I push a ball through the hoop.
Well,
That's funny because I'm not sitting on the hemorrhoid pillow tonight.
well,
Yeah, you didn't play.
yeah, you didn't play, or you'd be sitting on it. But
Yeah,
it doesn't matter because I ran fun things.
Yeah.
I get through a tag out there and this stupid.
And didn't support it with an engineer.
I did have an engineer. It just got blown up completely off the table. I mean, there's nothing I can do. I walked in when Ryan was you were doing other things. Ryan was setting up, and I said, so he goes, how'd it go? I go, well, I ran a 5-man link team with an HMG and then some cheerleaders behind it. That was kind of fun. And then I ran the tag with an engineer. He goes, oh, okay. I said, I could have hit it, but you didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't hit it. I threw it right out in the open again. And I said, this time I put it in suppressive fire.
Well,
First turn.
And so that didn't do. It didn't do anything. No, it did absolutely dick. So it is what it is. I had fun. I mean, I rolled dice. That's all. That's what Wednesday night gaming is for me.
You had a drink.
I had a drink. I don't care. Because if I did care, I wouldn't have put all my models behind one little obstacle and then watch the heavy flamer come down on. So this is okay. We won't talk about games at all tonight, really. But so I put all of my models behind the whole link team except for the link leader, who I always forget that you can't shoot an entire down a row. You can only what you see. You can't see all of them, obviously. So it was sitting there, and I didn't know there was models on the other side of the little pipe towers. So we ran them out, and one had a Spitfire, and then the little bot with them had a heavy flamer, and he was just giddy. I mean, just giddy. And so mistake number one, I was like, well, I'm going to split fire. I'm going to shoot one to the bot, I didn't even do that. I shot at the guy with the Spitfire, and I should have killed the stupid heavy flamer bot. And my dice rolling was horrendous, except for this, which I did my dodges, failed every one of them.
By one?
No, not even. It was. I just failed them. I was 19. D&D. I was strong tonight. And then I went to make my armor saves, and it was like 20. I'm like, okay. And then he went, well, let's do it again. And I went, fuck it. I'm going to shoot back at you. I'm just going to make my armor saves because that's what I do. Well, I was wrong. So I killed the guy
with that heavy flamer.
I got the bot. He got the entire 5-man link team. So I looked at him, I said, well, good game, sir. He goes, well, you still have the bottom of 2 to go. And I said, I have 2 orders left. You have 7 orders left. My engineer back here is probably not going to do anything. And I rolled 5 times to unlock that little, hit the button there. And I missed 5 times by rolling a 19, an 18, a 20, a 20. So we're good. We're good. It's okay. And he was like, oh, man. And I was like, I wouldn't feel bad. I said, my butt hurts. But it's cool. It's good. Lessons of a game learned. So, since we've narrowed down the ITS quickly because you guys hate me and don't want to do what I want to do, which bastards.
Majority rules.
Yeah.
Apparently. Let's talk about terrain. And terrain on a table. And what makes a good table of terrain? Mr. Moore.
I didn't know there would be a quiz.
There's a quiz.
There's always a quiz.
So, yeah, see? Majority rules. And only I know the answer.
Majority rules? Is that what we're agreeing on?
Oh, shit. I see where this is going.
Are we really gonna do this? I mean, you're gonna get outvoted eventually. You know that, right? Like this isn't Dominion or anything where you get to play like the middle ground and keep pitting us against each other. Eventually, we're just gonna join forces and you.
No. Are we saying majority rules?
Oh,
Is that what we're saying?
I abstain.
What do we do?
Then all right. For vote, you can no longer say "Dykes are fickle bitches" on the podcast. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Guys are
All right.
So this, I really like making tables. The tables I'm trying to work on. I've got several at home in various states of assembly. And my biggest thought is really trying to get some variety in just like the landscape, right? I have a shark mounted table, a shark mounted laser table that's my cityscape, right? I have a table that's an oil refinery, basically. That's just a bunch of like tin cans that I've saved. The idea behind that table was I'm just scrapping all the stuff I have and just kind of putting it together. So I didn't buy anything for that table except for paint, right?
Yeah, because that's got a bunch of PVC pipe.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of PVC pipe I've had from other projects and things sitting around. It's got a bunch of like different size soup cans and
A couple 3D printed tops, if I remember right.
yeah. So there are the 3D printed tops, and that became I added those because the lip on the top of the big soup cans, like somebody in the old edition, you could go up there and be prone and actually can't be seen because there's enough of a lip. So
right.
so it was literally kind of trying to take care of some of that. Right, and then it's got some of those plastic card pieces that I've cut, just kind of get into some additional detail. Now it does have, and it has a 3D printed truck, like tanker truck, train, not terrain type piece that I have that I just haven't put it in there, but that's another thing. And then I have the woodlands table. I have an interior table. And then I have a shipyard that I'm working on. I have another one that's a couple of variety of tables, right? But then you've been printing out, Rob, a bunch of 3D terrain and bringing up here to the shop that we play with. And that's really what kind of started me thinking about this, is because a lot of the tables that you bring up, right, have a bunch of terrain, but it's a lot of round things, or it's got like dome tops. And so really when you put it out there, your game mat is very two dimensional, right? You can't climb up on things, you can't go, and so there's no really verticality to it. Or it's just a bunch of rubble, so there's cover everywhere, so it's easier to kind of move through cover, and it seems a little crowded, right? So it kind of got me thinking about what I could do, or what to do, like how to do tables, and so like on a lot of the stuff that you have, and we should probably put some pictures up at some point. I'm thinking just getting some like the 2-inch insulation foam, and just
spackling it, or
because most of the stuff you have, like the mats are like kind of industrial and plate. So basically, I just cut some square edges of PVC or square edges of plastic card and do that, and kind of put that stuff around, right, and then just paint that like that, and then you can build some stairs or some ladders into that side, and that would just give it some other verticality.
Because that's one of the things that I think when Infinity first came to Kansas City, right? It was a lot of box cars, and then there was the shark-mounted laser stuff, or MDF terrain, which was all right angles. And then the idea that I had for introducing things that were more cylindrical was the same idea that you got with this with your oil refinery. In playing Infinity, slicing the pie from a right angle is much easier. Whereas if you are on a circle, it becomes a lot harder to come around without being seen by multiple arrow targets. So that's where I was coming from with that, but you're 100% right. A lot of the tables that I bring up do need that verticality, just to give it a different blocking of line of sight and line of fire and things like that.
Well,
so
I think
the problem. I don't know the problem. I mean, I think in a perfect world, right?
in a perfect world.
In a perfect world, it's perfect. I think in a perfect world, you would have kind of three things, at least three elements, right? You'd have right angles, you'd have circles, and you'd have different heights throughout the map. I think, like you said, years ago, what you used to see is each side almost had that 40K feel where you had the sniper tower. Everybody had a sniper tower.
It was very symmetrical.
Right, and you had it, and I think that's a mistake. But the other thing that I would like to see in Infinity way more is something other than ruins. Something other than an oil field, like something other than an industrial thing. I would love to see a wood line thing. The table that I would really like to see that would be really freaking cool would be like a swamp table. Like something with water in it, something that, because everything isn't fought in cities.
Yeah.
And I think that's where as Infinity players, at tables, we kind of fall short, because everybody throws, like you said, we went in a cycle, everybody had the little crates, the ammo crates and the boxes, and you put the scatter train up, and it was like, oh, okay, and everybody had the sniper tower, so everybody had a sniper or a HMG type of thing sitting in the bell tower, and you're just like, Jesus. how do you get the effing thing down? And now what people have done is they've gotten rid of the sniper towers, and the highest thing is so many inches up, probably like 8 or 9 inches high, and here you go, and then it's building to building with the catwalk.
I think you can build some really like cinematic tables, right? But what you also have to figure into that is the playability, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple pieces that Rob has printed that are basically like water towers, right? Like you and I had one on our table, and then we had to discuss like how are we going to use this, because you could see through it. There was like a solid part in the middle, and then the big ball on top, but then there were some pipes running down the side, so you could kind of see through there. So we decided we're just going to count that as enclosed, right?
Right.
Solid.
Like when I did the wilderness table that I had built,
Which I love that table, by the way.
Yeah.
but you'll notice like this. Thank you. But you'll notice like the sides are, while they're all rocky and stuff, they are pretty straight, right? So that they don't have a lot of like they have some dip ins and stuff like that. But it's not like I can see through here. I can do that. Because my idea was like I wanted it to be modular. I wanted it to look like a wilderness, but I wanted it to be like I don't want you and your opponent to have like a 45-minute conversation on, well, can you see this? How do we count that? How do we do that?
Right.
So I think when you're building a table, you really have to think about playability. And like I've seen some that have like big, like 6-story buildings, right? And I'm like, it looks cool, but I mean, what if something on the other side of that? I'm trying to get line of sight to something else, and like trying to figure out how to see stuff. So I think that's another objective that when you're building a table, when you're putting together a table, to think about too. But also not that, just how things are set up. Like if you have a bunch of really tall stuff in the middle, like what does that do to the line of sight?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but I mean, I think the reason I bring up the different types of terrain is Infinity, while every list is different-ish, right? You tend to see the same type of pieces in each army. You see a certain list and you know to expect certain things, and that's just the way it is because the pieces are great. Because everybody knows when you show up to an event, you're playing on get ready to do urban warfare. Mm-hmm. If you went to a tournament and if you had 20 players and there's 10 tables and 2 of them were foresty, 1 of them was 0G, 2 of them were something else, you started really throwing mixed type terrain that certain units had, you might actually see people roll the dice and go, I'd never take that. Man, if I play on one of their forest tables, this unit would just, I mean, I could eat somebody alive with this. I think you could actually start seeing it, because people might be on the fence like, well, heck, 25% of the tables, because a lot of players, especially competitive players, will math hammer something out.
Yeah.
And they'll run a risk to reward thing. If you had 5 tables that were woodland and 5 that were urban, well, that's 50%. I got a 50% chance on 3 games playing on that table. And if I'm thinking of taking, a ranger type of unit that has that terrain right feature versus a model that doesn't, I might actually pick that model. And we never use it because this model's better. But God, if I got it in woodland, I mean, look out. 0G, I mean, holy moly. I mean, it would be miserable as a player to play on 0G sometimes. And there's some trains that just, God, it would suck. But if you did it, I think your event would see different, people would actually think about different models in a different sense.
I wonder though, I agree, right? That would be kind of cool to start using some of the terrain rules. But I wonder how many people would show up to an event. Let's just say even a bigger event. Let's just say like one of the say a 50-man travel, right?
Okay.
And somebody shows up, and then there are all these terrain rules, right? Do you think that is something that, although they're built into the core rules, like they're in the rule book, right? But do you think as the terrain organizer, that's something like, hey, we are using terrain rules?
I mean, it goes out in the packet, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're playing ITS. ITS, all the rules are rules. I mean, you're playing.
But do you think? Yeah, that's what I mean. So, but do you think you would still, as the organizer, need to announce that so people don't show up and be like, wait a minute, I don't have.
Yeah.
I don't have any models that have 0G.
Because I remember years and years, years ago when I was in Texas and we played in a one-man tournament.
A one-man tournament?
One
did
day
you win?
Tournament. Yeah, I did. I was by myself. God bless. A one-day tournament, and I played against somebody who played in an Ariadne list with the 20 orders or however many damn orders they had, and I played Steel Phalanx with Achilles, and it was basically a woodland table, and I was like, okay, and the Ariadne list got to do some of its little shenanigans in the woodland, but I mean, we remember the old 20-man units. They were paper.
Yeah.
Spitfires
Yeah.
just ate them alive.
Yeah.
So it was bad for him. But I thought how cool it was because that Ariadne player, and you didn't see that kind of list a lot, was super psyched that they were on the list, and they were super bummed when they saw Achilles across the table. But I mean, it is what it is. But that's the type of thing I think of when you say narrative events, because like when we talked last episode, part of your hobby would be making a table and bringing it. That woodland table you made it really is beautiful. If you haven't seen pictures of it yet, you should post it, because it would be awesome for somebody to show up with that type of table, set it up, put their army on, and you'd be like, that's different.
Yeah.
That's something that wins something, because you're like, well, that's. I mean, how many times have we seen the Yu Jing table? I mean, like seriously, the billboard, the same. It's like everybody. All the Yu Jing players play the same stereotypical Japanese urban Tokyo setup. It's the same. It's beautiful, but I've seen it.
It's Neo Tokyo.
I've seen it. I've seen that. I haven't seen a really cool woodland, U.S. Ariadne list or something of that, where somebody shows up and goes, look at this, and you're like, okay,
that's what I would expect to see in
Yeah.
a Terra planet sci-fi.
And that's I think that's my only thing with Infinity, is where I give it a little kind of a black mark, is there's the originality for tables, and that's really on us, not Infinity.
Right.
And I was going to say, or I was going to ask, do you think that that's more of just the evolution? Because you talked about when people were coming from 40K and the tables were very symmetrical. That, to me, speaks more to how people have played other games and not necessarily Infinity.
Well,
and you're probably right. People started playing, this is what they had. I mean, that's why I built these plastic card dumpsters and cast them in resin and put them in, because I wasn't going to put shipping containers in the middle of my city, right? So I built those plastic card resin dumpsters, and I used plastic cards, stuff like that, and made those billboard signs, so that'd be my scatter terrain, and I made those planters so that I had no crates. Now there is one crate on that table because it's the PFP one.
Right.
But that was my whole reasoning behind that, right? It's like I wanted to do this, those don't fit. Like, why am I going to have I'm going to have this big city and then like a bunch of shipping containers just sprawled throughout my roads.
One of the things that I really like about your shark-mounted laser terrain that is your quote-unquote clean city is it's super clean. There's trash cans, there's all these things. But you've also just done a shark-mounted laser terrain that is slums and ruins, and there's trash everywhere. And I think that has the same sort of playability as your clean city, but it has a completely different aesthetic
feel
to it.
I think the problem is, if you're going to say like you came from a 40K world and everything's, I think tournaments, right, for a TO, because your player base were a bunch of whiny bitches, you had to have every table basically the same, or somebody would say, well, that table has a competitive advantage against me, so you see.
Well, that's what you're fucking whip rolls for at the beginning.
He's talking about 40K.
Right.
So people put. Every table was symmetrical. You look down the line, and every table was the same or close to it, as close as they could with the terrain, right? And then you get the huge events, and you're like, I don't have that. You don't have that kind of terrain. And then Infinity, people, coming from that world to this, you start pulling all that. You start putting more terrain and more. Infinity is better with more terrain.
Well, I think
there's a balance.
No, I think there's a limit. Like you get too much terrain, and then people who were like, well, my 3 HMGs and my sniper rifle don't do me any good. And my opponent who's got, whatever troop that can just sneak around and murder me because I can't do anything about it. So I think there's got to be balance. So like the shanty town that Rob's referring to, I set it up today, and if you would look at it, there was like one whole quarter of the table that was nothing but there was no buildings in there. It was a bunch of the rubble, and there's some of it was piled up and stuff like that. And I did that on purpose, right? And that was in one side that somebody would deploy on too, right? And so that was my thought. So I was like, okay, this is going to make, and this is where I think the asymmetrical versus symmetrical argument really comes into play, is it makes that lieutenant role at the beginning actually mean a whole lot more, right? Because now you're like, I'm going to pick the side. Like, for example, when Will and I played tonight, he won and he picked the side having to play first. And I literally turtled in this corner because I didn't have a whole lot of cover on a whole section of my deployment zone, right? So I like that piece. I don't like it for like half of your deployment zone is inoperable because there's nothing there. I mean, I don't think that's fair. And I've seen some pictures of people will post a picture and, hey, check out my table, and I'm like, you've got a good foot. All your stuff's in the middle of the table. You need to space that out, and there's got to be stuff on the edges that block some of that, and some people can hide stuff in your deployment zone. Don't just jump everything in the middle and make that really cool middle part because the outsides are gonna suck ass.
We'll see, but like where you said that you can have too much terrain. I think personally, right, in an event, if I were to make my ideal event, right, and I'm talking about it one day because 2 days, like that gets to be a lot more when you have way too many people. Like it's a lot of people and then terrain becomes an issue. I would love to see like a wilderness table. I would love to see an overcrowded table, like a city that's either
well, I think you got it
super tense because when you're saying like the guy that brings the HMGs and the sniper rifle, well, you didn't balance your list then if you don't have any boarding shotguns. If you don't have anything for close, kind of sneaking around and close, then you're hoping that everything's kind of open and you get to sit back and just wail on somebody. Here's your deal with adversity because Infinity terrain is the equalizer, and like you said, that lieutenant role is important. Well, list balancing is important. So if you show up thinking that every table is going to be an urban table, and you're going to do blah 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 and done, and you come in and go, well, welcome to 0G. I brought. That's not our problem. That's your problem. Next table, next luck of the unluck or luck. You got the wilderness table.
Good luck.
Well, I didn't bring. Well, what do you want us to do about it? And then the last one, if you brought 3 HMGs and a sniper rifle, and then you brought a bunch of cheerleaders, and you get the super dense terrain where line of sight gets blocked every so many inches, it's right angle, and maybe there's one, really good shot, like one alley that you would really see in a combat zone. I mean, I think everybody thinks about Saving Private Ryan and stuff for snipers, and they're in that bell tower. Well, in real life, or even in sci-fi, you get up in that bell tower, you're done.
Interesting tangent. Dude, I've never seen that movie.
What? Saving Private Ryan? Really?
Yeah, seriously.
What the?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was like, I need to watch that to be on, and like something came up, and I'm like, I don't have time to do it, and literally, I was like, just space it out. Woo!
So that movie, the only reason I'm gonna tell the story is because it's really wonky. So I took my girlfriend at the time when I was like 18 or 17. No, I don't know. She's gonna know now if she listens. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so I'm safe.
You're safe.
So we went to the movie.
Are you sure that's not why she didn't drop by your mom?
She's mad at me. She might have been. Oh my god! Yeah, I'm not even gonna tell this story. So we go to the movies. I'm like 17. I've already signed up to join the army. Do airborne school, ranger school, blah 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 blah, right? And we go to see Saving Private Ryan. All of my friends and my girlfriend at the time, and we're watching it. And the opening scene the ship opens up and the machine gun goes in and it wastes them all, right? And then they cut and then they show the ranger, and there was no ranger tabs or scrolls back then. It was just a patch, the diamond that said ranger on it. Well, I had signed up to do all of this, and so I look over at my girlfriend the first 15 minutes, and she is balling.
Yep.
And she gets up and walks out to the bathroom. Right, I'm like, I'm a 17-year-old guy. I'm like, what the fuck's her problem? Why is she crying? It's not even sad. They died. Whatever. So the movie gets done, and she's like, that could be you. I'm like, that was like 1941, 42. What are you talking about? That can't be me. That's not me. What's wrong with you?
Clueless Randy. What do you mean?
Clueless
it's Randy. A movie.
Yeah, and anybody anybody listening to this that's younger, we were telling a story 2 weeks ago when I was here. We were a bunch of the military people, and I said, I was on AFN. I was on AFN, which is Armed Forces Network over in Europe, and we were doing a training exercise thing, and the camera crew came around, and I was like, I don't know, 18 years old, right? And I'm in camouflage, I got my camo paint on, and the BDUs and everything, and we're doing this thing, and the camera gets on me, and they're like, blah blah blah, deployment, something. How do you feel? And I was like, shit. I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof, baby. Nothing can hurt Superman. And they actually kept it, right? Without the shit part at the beginning. I'm 10 feet tall, and that's what played back in like in the European things. And then another one of the guys that I was stationed with, he thought he was being funny, and they said, "So, do you have a message back home? You know, to anybody while you're out here?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'd just like to say to my girlfriend, see you in 7 days, baby girl. Daddy can't wait to see you. And to my wife, I'll be home in 2 weeks." So that played too bad. Yeah. So when we got off the buses, like we got home off the buses, his wife was not at all pleased with that whole little joke. Oh man, that was yeah. But it was funny to us.
Yeah. All right, so back to
the terrain.
No, sorry. So I do think you have a point, Randy. But you having some some crowded tables is good, right? But I think I guess I'm kind of speaking in like don't always have all of the tables you play on be super crowded, right? Or try to mix them up.
I think the balance aspect.
Well, I mean, I even think you can have a crowded, table to Randy's point, just because it changes that puzzle you have to fix. But I mean, but every week don't play on that same crowded table. Like some weeks don't, have a crowded table, and then next week don't, put out, 3/4 of the terrain, right?
I think the only reason I'm saying this is I'm not talking about your Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday night game with your buddy that you're like, well, what are you playing? I'm playing this. Like, let's set up terrain, right? Like, because when we show up, usually Rob, Ryan, sometimes I help, but we throw terrain out. Everybody shows up. They pick their tables and they play, right? But a tournament, to me, if you're really talking about being competitive, and part of a competitive event, and I hate that I'm even discussing this because I loathe competitive play anymore, but part of it is list building. Mm-hmm. And if you are the guy that just, I can do city fight, sure, whatever. Yeah. You're not that great of I'm going to be the guy that bursts your bubble, like, here's the pin. You're not that good of a player then. If you don't go to a tournament and play on some different type of terrain and have to deal with some sort of adversity and you just crank out your list, because the guys that play competitive, they practice a bunch. And we have a couple guys in KC that are pretty competitive, but every time you play them, you're playing on a urban terrain with, I would say, the normal terrain amount, right?
Okay.
But you never play anything else, and that's something else. I think that shows if you're prepared. I think it adds a layer of thought process to a list build, to what you're going to bring on your two lists. Because usually people bring Annihilation and they bring a button pusher list. Like, this is for kill, and this is for button pushing. What am I going to do? But what if you brought a list this is kind of, I can do whatever. If I get stuck on one of those stupid ass whatever tables, I'm pulling this.
I'm pulling this.
This is coming out. This is coming out.
Or if you're like, I'm really an open table, and my furthest range is this 24-inch Spitfire, right? And this guy has that's cool. I've got three HMGs and a missile launcher and a TO camo or mimetism -6 sniper right over there. So have fun.
Have fun. Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, and I played. This was one of Andrew's area on the list that had a bunch of the the 20 list, and I had stuff set up, and it was fairly open on his side, and so literally he everybody. This was 3rd edition and 3, right? So all of his very impetuous dudes had to be very impetuous and run out. And I was good until they got one of them that passed the smoke, right? And then everybody else kind of just ran in this funnel of smoke, right?
But I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Because whenever you talk about anybody or listen to other podcasts, when they talk about building for a tournament, you literally hear people like, this is how you make your list, you do this and this, right? If you're going to make list A do this, list B has to do the other thing that there is. But in nowhere do you ever hear somebody say, well, my second list can deal with 0G, or it can deal with this or this or this. It can deal with the terrain that you might throw me in.
Well, there have been casts that have talked about that, like, depending on the selection of scenarios, like, hey, you can build one list that can do both these things. So now you build one list for range and one list for so that people have had that discussion.
I've never heard about where somebody actually built a list around going to events to terrain effects.
Oh no, like the special because typically it's like opener
right,
type,
or opener type. I mean, like I get that. Like you can have an open table, you might have a tighter table. Like I have this and this.
Yeah, so but your wisdom is like, okay, there's going to be there's water effects. There's
dense. There's jungle. There's desert. There's
and I did see God, it's been years, but it was somebody who built a spaceship, right? And it was on a 4x4 table, and then if you looked on like the left half to half, obviously depending on what side you're looking at, but on the left half there was like one level of the spaceship, and on the middle there was the next level of the spaceship, and on the right was basically the top of the spaceship. So while your table was 4x4, it really wasn't, right? Because what it does is they had ways that you would go from level 1 to level 2. But if you had 0G, you could actually go outside, and then you could cross over the top of the spaceship. So you'd go over the far right, and then you'd go over the top of that, and then you could go
Come
in
back
into the
in.
other two levels. And it was an interior table, right? But they used the spaceship and some of the terrain effects, and it was really kind of a cool idea. It was definitely very tight, so if you had HMGs and snipers, I mean, you couldn't place anybody on the table itself. They had to be in the ship of some type. It was a really interesting idea.
I wonder how it played for, like
I think
Ariadne.
I think if you're going to play on it, that's the table you're like, hey, we're going to play on the ship tonight. We're doing boarding actions, right? And
Right.
then you have to.
But could you imagine though building your lists out right, and you didn't take into consideration that there might be a table that's, because it reminds me of a table like that reminds me of, that's basically the Space Hulk tables.
Yeah.
From the from 20 years ago when Space Hulk was a thing and you'd play it and everything was a door and then you came in and it was a right angle of this and you were close quarters all the time. I honestly think that if you throw those type of things out there, and you don't just throw it on players, right? You can't just go,
You don't just-
welcome to our the madhouse of there's we have 8 tables and each one is a different type of thing. Ha ha ha. Middle finger. You tell people like, hey, just so you know, we're going to be running tables that are wood lined. We have we have a desert table, that's got sand dunes that are actually the cover. Get ready. It's pretty much all sand, and then maybe it comes into a city, like a city that goes out to the desert, something like that. That would be neat. And like you said, because you could do where half of the table is the city, but you can deploy in the city, and then the sand kind of comes off. Even if it's a small section of it, I think it would be fun to see somebody use it.
And I think that's one of the things that Raj was wanting to do for Mission Critical 2020, right? Was it would behoove you as a list build to include these types of troops,
Right?
These types of things, and so then granted that's a more narrative event, but it prepares you as the player to be like, shit's gonna get real, it's gonna get wild. I better prepare for all of these things so that way I can enjoy myself.
Well, I mean, how many times do you see on a Facebook post or a Discord server or something people talking about close combat's kind of shitty in this game? Like, close combat's just not that good. Well, there's a reason it's not that good. The reason close combat's not that great is because you can't get there, and if you could, the table's wide open, you're going to get slaughtered going in.
I got in close combat tonight with my Desperado.
Yeah, I saw that.
He ended up using the chain rifle, but I was in base contact.
I got to base contact, and then I died.
Yeah. Then I shot somebody.
Well, he chain rifled the Rushi, who was in suppressive fire, so he survived. The Rushi missed. I dropped the Rushi with the chain rifle, but then his Oryu, or the JSA tag, Yori, shot me from halfway across the board in the back. Dropped me.
Dropped you. It was the miracle shot, the cinematic boom.
Sixth Sense.
What the heck?
And it wasn't really the miracle shot. Basically, he was like, what the hell's that motorcycle? It's just screaming across it. Oh, all right, I'm just gonna step back and pop in.
I just like the idea. I enjoy the idea of there being. I know that when I play, I always look for the fun table, something I haven't seen before.
No.
Because one, it's something different, and granted, I don't really give a shit. Like, I don't look at people's lists. I don't really care. Like, when we roll off the lieutenant thing, if I'm standing on a side of a table, I'm entirely too lazy to move my models to the other side. So I'm like, I'm just staying here.
I think you actually said that tonight.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So that's why you don't put your stuff on the table until you've rolled.
No, I totally get that. But like, he had walked over to one side, so I was like, oh, I'll stand on this side. And then we rolled. He won. He's like, well, I want to go first. I'm like, well, I'm going to sit up second, and I'm staying over here because I'm not moving my mouse because I don't care. But again, this is a fun game.
Yeah.
I think if you lock into tournament mode, you're right. You set up, you check out both sides. I think that you really have to decide what you're going to do. But I think that if we're going to do an actual 2-day or start running events, I think people should start moving towards where you actually, because I see all the time people say the old spam lists are they're hamstrung, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're hamstrung because they want to do a ton of orders, and you end up shooing in this expensive model into a list that doesn't want to have it.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to do
I
it.
can see that. Yeah.
So how do you get those lists to come out of hiding for a tournament? How do you get them to play again? And the way you get them to play again is you make advantageous terrain for them to want to bring that list out. If you bring that out, then people might be like, that's not a bad idea. I got a shot. This is my favorite army. I might not get steamrolled if you give me that. If I get that table once or twice. Okay.
Well, I mean, the 15 order or the 15 unit cap, I think, is what affects a lot of that.
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree completely.
But I mean, possibly. I don't know.
You could also.
We're sorry. Personal Flash Paper has experienced a slight technical difficulty. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, so we are back. We had technical difficulties because of Ryan. It's his fault. Okay, so let me ask you this question because we're talking about terrain, and I keep
And the terrain of thought was wrecked.
Yeah.
the train of thought was the train. Jesus Christ.
Took him a little bit.
So funny. Me and Rob aren't even dads, and that was a pretty good.
Yeah.
So we don't keep rehashing the same shit, but we were talking about this the other day. Ryan and I we were talking about your oil field made out of, and for people at home thinking about making terrain, if you ever bump into Ryan or Rob, they make terrain out of the most obscure shit ever. And it's great, right? Like, you ask them how to make a table, and they'll tell you, it's like, blah, 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 blah. I saved this for, 2 months, and I pulled out baby keychain, soap on a rope, and something else, and fucking, here's a table.
I have 50 Pringles cans still waiting to be used. And I kid you not, that's not exaggeration. I have 50 Pringles. I stopped, once I got to 50, I was like, I'm just going to stop collecting these until I make something.
But the funny thing is that, so this oil field table that I'm talking about, it has no cover for height. So there's ways to get up to the height, but if you get up there, you don't get any cover.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a Pandora's box. If you go up there, you can see the board if you want to put a sniper up there. The caveat being, everybody gets to see you too.
Yep.
So if you want to play that, you get one shot, then you're probably going to get got.
Because Brian and I played on that exact table in the office, and I put a blackjack T2 sniper on top, and Ryan had a hard time negotiating the sniper lanes because you could see everything. But then once that sniper went down, it was, now he's gonna be able to pick me apart like nice little.
Yeah. Then my dude just danced across the field.
Yep.
Which
Frolic
is-
in a field.
Which is fun. I mean, it's cool. And the reason I'm bringing that up, I think that it is neat it's kind of the carrot and the stick, right? The carrot is there's height on this table. The stick is if you go up there, you better know what you're getting yourself into. When we had our technical difficulties, Rob and I were talking about. I said it would be a dick move to put a sniper tower in the far back corner of a table, on the back edge, with height to see the whole table, right? That would be kind of a nightmare for most people. And then Rob said, all right, we'll do that, but then make a bunch of pillars that are infinitely high all over the place so you can cautious move between cover to cover to cover to cover. But
Yeah.
I said, but that,
But that was a good counterpoint.
So on that, and I've seen some really cool stuff. People have put a sniper tower on one side of the table, right? And people are like, I'm going to take it. So they're like, all right, I've got a sniper. I'm going to pick that thing, and then they'll go and they'll put a model up there, and it literally has one lane. If you go right here, if you go into this 4-inch
Lane of
thing,
death.
they've got you, but it can't see anything else. So you can really and when you're building or putting your table out, you could really play that mind game with people too. Like, hey, that sniper tower is super juicy, but it's
a one-trick
not.
pony.
You can't.
Well,
you can't see a bunch of stuff, and
but
I think that's important. I think it's.
I don't know that. I think, I'll be honest with you though. Again, I'm not a good Infinity player, so I don't know why I'm saying this, but if you make your tables like that, and I only know real world how that would function, but if you really did something like that and you gave a sniper, but that's what a sniper's supposed to be. this is my one lane. I don't care about the whole board. You have to go around now.
Right.
So I mean, I agree with you. If you're just picking it because sniper tower, I got the pick of the litter, and you're not really paying attention that okay.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that people do is they'll look at somebody's list and they'll be like, I don't see a sniper over there. Mm-hmm. Or I see a sniper over there. I'm going to deny you the sniper tower.
Well, so you're not seeing your opponent's list until.
No, I mean, but sometimes you see people's. What I'm saying, they're models. Like you
Oh,
see
yeah,
models.
Atlanta.
If you see something you know is obviously, but I mean, HMGs go up there just as well, if not almost better. Some people will deny the sniper tower, even if you don't have a sniper. You might be like, nope, I'm not giving you that. And then to come to realize they only had that fire lane, and you really didn't take anything away. Now they have free reign through there because you didn't have the piece to. But I do like that idea. Do you guys plan your tables out pre-event?
Like how they're going to be set up?
Yeah, like
No.
before
Nope.
you show up, do you?
No, I start pulling stuff out. Like when I pack my tables, like the math today always on top, right? Because I put it, that's the first thing down, and then you just start pulling stuff out, and then literally like the scatter train will all go to the side, and I'll just start placing buildings in some whatever type of pattern system. Like tonight, like I specifically put the shanty table out the way I did with so 1/4 of it was just all the rubble, and then the rest of it. So I kind of wanted to that.
Spread it out a little bit.
Basically this L of buildings and then a bunch of the rubble. So there wasn't a lot of like scattered terrain on the rest of the table. There's a few pieces that scattered over, but if you went to the opposite corner where the rubble was, there wasn't any scattered terrain over there.
Yeah, and I know when I'm putting out terrain, especially for people that are trying to go to events, I try to make it so that it is a tactical advantage to use your whip roll, right?
Yeah.
So that way they have to get into that mindset of going to a tournament and making sure that the whip roll matters, and they have already scouted out that table for some sort of tactical advantage.
Yeah, on the wilderness one, I typically try to make it look cool, and like it has some river pieces in there, so I'll put those out, and I've done them different ways before. So I've had one river that cuts, through about half of it, kind of, but then I also did one that was like it had 2 river pieces that kind of cut the corners. That's the one what Corey was talking about. Achilles went swimming, or Hector went swimming.
Hector went swimming
because he deployed him and he had to cross the river. But again, that was going back to what Randy's thing was talking about. He used the water terrain rules at that point. Aquatic.
I don't think there's anything wrong with throwing different terrain at people. And I'm somebody that doesn't know the rules of shit. So throw me on those tables. I'm going, whatever. I don't care. What does it do? But I think it does ripple. But the reason I ask if you guys plan your tables out, because terrain is such a big deal, and I know on the day of a tournament you just kind of put it out, but when you're setting it out, are you thinking of is the only thought in your head when you're balancing the table, like, I want this lieutenant role to make sense? Do you kind of like start going to different towers and looking at the fire lanes to see if there is or if they're blocked, or do you do any of that?
Yeah, I will. After I kind of lay the whole table out, I'll walk around and kind of just look at it, make sure there isn't something that's super or overly advantageous to a side. I want to, if I have a sniper tower of little bird's nest piece, right? I don't want to be able to see everything in the opponent's deployment zone. I want them to be seeing parts of it. Like you can see this, you can see this lane here, you can see this lane here, but they've got these things around. Right? I'll look for some of that. When I'm building a table, when I'm planning the table, the things that at that point when I'm looking at it is typically theme, like I'm trying to theme all my stuff, and also modularity, right? I want to be able to use a bunch of stuff, but I also want it to be modular in the fact that it's not going to be, well, you can have a big building here and a big building there this week, and then next week it's 2 big buildings here. I'm looking for more.
So it's funny you talk about the modularity, because we have a new player who was here again tonight. He had a demo a couple weeks ago. He was here again tonight, and he was taking notes. And one of the things that he asked in taking notes is the table set up the same way every time? And I was like, no, because I set up these 2 tonight, and Ryan set up that one, and Clayton set up that one, and it just varies. He's like, oh, that's very interesting. And yeah, that's part of the appeal of Infinity, because of the terrain being different all the time.
Right.
It's not the same battlefield every time.
Right, and I mean, the people that make their own terrain, you know, you guys both literally make out of household PVC piping and some other things. Can't take him anywhere, I swear to God.
I know.
He's like, it's just this guy. You guys make it. I think that the tables look great, and the difference between buying, you know, spending money on, and there's nothing wrong with the companies where you buy it. I mean, I pay people to paint my army, so I'm not no one to talk. But making your own terrain, it reminds me of when I was a kid, and you learn how to play Warhammer, and you couldn't afford any of the. You couldn't afford it, so you literally would put books in the middle of the table.
That's your hills.
Like that's your hills, and you
paint
would
bottles as trees.
Right.
Yeah.
You would do all sorts of weird things. That's kind of what it reminds me of, except for now that we're adults, you guys do it and it actually looks right. You look at it, you're like, what the hell is this? It's a coffee can. Okay. Oh, all right, cool. I like it. But yeah, I do dig the terrain. I was always curious when Tio set up. I know that from the Warhammer world, nobody thought anything of the terrain. It was like, especially fantasy. Here's a hill. Here's a hill. Here's a hill. You know,
Well,
each table gets two floors, two towers.
And I think that's what's weird. So even in fantasy, you had some cooler elements, right? So, but you would be like the cutout of the the green astroturf, right? And then there'd be some hills that sat on top of that, and like this whole cutout is not hills. This whole cutout is trees, and then you could put the trees around. And then even you know, Privateer Press with War Machine and Hordes went the extreme opposite, which they literally just had neoprene cutouts and stuff. Which that to me, I'm like, oh, I'm out. I'm definitely out now.
Right. I mean, terrain. The way to immerse yourself into a game is through the terrain. The terrain puts you into the game. The model's painted nice. That brings you even more into the game, and then a rule set of what you're doing. It completes it, right? So the better the quality of the models, the better the terrain is laid out. That's what attracts the player. So if you're sitting in a city going, I don't have anybody to play Infinity with, throw together a really cool table. Start throwing some demos together. People will be interested. Yeah, because it looks freaking cool.
Yeah,
and we've talked about how to build your local meta with playing games. Yeah, a cool looking table with awesome looking models, people will flock to it because that's just something that completes the package, as Randy was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it, but so we have our ITS tournament.
Yep.
Are we gonna do we get to vote on a couple of random terrain tables now?
Well, I mean, let's not do random because we may not have those.
Well, no. I mean, like, do.
But I mean, I just think we use the. I mean, we can use the rule we have, and we can put the wilderness there. It's got water on there. It's got some forest stuff on there.
Okay.
You can put like a gravity zone or a gravity well or something on one of the other tables. That's why there's nobody there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Let's look up the rules.
All right. I mean, I think it'd be cool if I show up.
So, no, I mean, I think that I will say that Infinity, that's one of the things, like, when you get some cool models and you get some cool terrain, that is one of the things that it's really appealing, and it does immerse you more, and that's why, I mean,
That's why you got 50 tables?
I've got 5, I think, fully painted tables that are all different in most aspects. But, like, well, one of them will be the shop. The shantytown is going to be the one we're going to leave up here once that closet gets figured out.
It's being taken care of. I don't know if you saw when you walked in the door. We were having a discussion on that. So it is moving forward.
All right.
That's all I can say.
That's what was it.
So, I think we should do $10 entry.
10?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
I think 10's fair enough.
$10.
10 for Juneteenth.
10 for Juneteenth?
Well, why don't you do 19?
We could. Yeah, I'm down for that.
I mean, it's probably 10's fine.
Yeah,
because 19 may be a little bit too much for 3 games of Infinity.
Yeah.
So $10. 3 games ITS. Did you write down the missions? Do you remember?
No, we recorded them. Though.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So
it was acquisition, something, firefight.
Decapitation, yeah.
Decapitation.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It actually was.
There you go.
Decapitation. We're going to decapitate people.
That's what the comm log. Thanks, Mike Byer.
So basically, you only need one list.
Yeah, you're just going to kill.
So bring
your shooty, bring your killing.
No, bring 2 lists. Bring 1 for range and 1 for short.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. So okay. So how many players are we going to cap it out at? You want to do 12?
I think 12 or 14.
Okay.
Let's do 14 as a cap.
Let's do 78.
I don't think the game room will
78.
hold
78.
78, but I like where your head's at.
I still.
He's going big.
Okay, next tournament though, we get to do the ball and chain tournament idea.
I like that idea. I like that.
Good. It's better. Okay, so we'll do a.
Because you thought of it.
Yeah, we'll
It's
do-
supposed
okay,
better.
So we're gonna do a wilderness table for the 14th. We have to have 7 tables. So we're gonna do a wilderness table, a 0G table. I think we do a close quarters
I
table.
don't know if we can do a 0G table. We don't have a 0G table built in.
I mean, you just say the whole fucking thing's 0G. Like one little 0G second.
The planet went off its axis, causing a massive geomagnetic storm, which reversed
So
the
then,
gravity.
like every few minutes, the TO goes by, just knocks something over. Just swipes his hand, moves on.
And this got moved.
The hand of God.
Okay, so wilderness table. What other tables we got?
So you could do the interior table, but you could then at that point limit combat drop. 80 drop is not usable on that. You know, you could do some of the opposite instead of being access to some of the terrain stuff. You have to limit because it's all interior, right? So basically, you have to be on there, so you can't airdrop in or combat parachute in.
I mean,
Yeah, when they did Asteroid Blues as their global campaign, they being Corvus Belli, there was specific rules for parachutists and aerial deployment guys and things like that. So maybe something to look at.
I mean, even if you don't do an interior table, if you do kind of almost like a very narrow view of what a city fight would be, like a mount city where you're talking about buildings and they're being super close together and alleys and, you know.
And Randy's used a military jargon term, mount.
Yeah. Well,
Military operations, urban terrain.
yeah. Well,
So-
if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
I mean, I don't know what else to say, but I mean, so there's a couple ideas. I want to start playing with the terrain. Start having fun with it.
I think that's a good idea.
I call second alternate.
Well, I mean, so we could do things. There
Ron's
is.
got on his phone.
Yeah, I got on my phone.
Here we go.
So there is, the desert, right? So we could do that for.
But do we have desert terrain?
Well, that
Yeah.
the oil refinery one is on a desert map.
Okay.
And I've got a desert map for one of my tables. I just need to finish
There's a
painting
couple. There's a couple mountains here. Oh, we could do storm.
it. Ooh,
That would be kind of fun.
that's interesting.
Oh, you know what you should do?
So you could do. Here's engine room, generator room, engine core room. So you could make the interior table those things, right? Because that's 0G.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow, combining both of them, huh?
Well, so engine room is 0G, difficult terrain, and it has low visibility and a saturation zone.
Low
right?
vis and a saturation zone.
The generator room has all of those, but then under the visibility, it's white noise, right? So MSV doesn't work in there. And then the energy core is low vis and white zone, but not a saturation, or low vis and white noise, but not a saturation zone.
Wow, that
I mean, that would be a cool table to do. One of those.
it would.
We should do. We should do that. We should do that. We should do the desert. We should do the woods. We should do a interior table. That's 3, and I mean we only need 7 tables if you have 14. So I think then you do 4 normal tables. Yeah, and if we find one more cool one, then if we think of one other idea, we can always run it. But I think the desert idea is a good with the oil refinery. I mean, it's got terrain on it, and the whole table is desert. I don't know what to tell you. 'Cause, I mean, it is.
So yeah, if you're playing Hawk Islam, then that army has an added advantage.
I mean, I would like to do an interior table, and I'd like to do a outdoor thing, but where it's more packed, more terrainly packed.
Densely
More
packed.
terrainly packed.
Yeah, densely.
All right, everybody.
More
terrainly packed.
More terrainly packed. I'm not an English major. Okay.
Because they
Whatever.
segregate the drive.
Whatever Leo wants, Leo
Leo
gets.
gets. You get it? You get it?
Come on.
We're working here. Who is this guy?
Hey.
Sphinx?
Fuck you in the drive.
Hey, fuck you in the drive. I'm not eating the tuna fish.
Well, we just did a whole lethal weapon thing just right there. Boom. Perfect. Oh my God.
It's too funny.
So much fun podcasting. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it.
You should probably start another one.
Yeah, I need to get back on that RPG podcast. I needed a break. I needed
Get back on that pony.
I need to get back on that pony. But yeah, we need to start running a game here live. We should just do that. Yeah, the RPG podcast is it's fun. RPGing is fun, but it's hard playing every Wednesday Infinity and trying to Rob's trying to deep throat the microphone right now, which is crazy. And the funky thing is he got his mouth around the whole thing.
And the weird thing, it wasn't even his microphone. It was Randy's.
I know. It's so crazy.
That was no microphone.
That was no microphone. Oh, hey. He bumped his head.
It's a small child eating paint chips.
What's going on? So no, it's that's good too. So yeah, so it sounds like we have the makings of an event.
Yeah,
I think So I will definitely get that ITS loaded with the missions, the points, the price point. This is also all the things that I'm going to have to saddle up with Madeline to make sure that she gets it onto the Cardboard Corner Cafe and Tabletop Game and Hobby calendar of events, as that is starting to roll out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm down. So anything else we need to discuss? Other than Rob not playing a game again.
Yeah.
And I'm still the champion of the cast.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. None of you want
Rob
to
grinning. Just sit over there grinning like a freaking weirdo.
Guys,
we're gonna have to start doing these live so people can see Rob's face when we're doing this. I mean, like, he's just sitting there like gobsmacked sometimes when you say weird things to Rob. He just kind of like.
Because the filter is still engaged. Because I can't just roll off a line of obscenities, because then it's like
don't do lines.
Yeah, well, you can hookers butts, but
okay, Michael Irvin. Okay, all right.
He was a good wide receiver. What do you want?
Okay, we can do a sports cast later on.
Oh, good lord.
Oh no.
No.
We don't do personal best day for sports. No, okay. Yeah, you want to talk about people being angry? If gamers are angry, sports people are. Oh my God.
Fantasy football is Dungeons and Dragons for jocks. That's a known fact.
I love my fantasy. We have a PFP league now. I gotta send a model still to Tipsword.
You don't have a PSP league, you have an Infinity.
It's
but I'm saying, the thing was that Grant started it when we were still doing, and he was on the cast, so I think of it that way, but it's like most of the podcasts are there.
Everybody.
Yeah. So we play, and I think Tipsword won this year. I didn't pay attention for like the first 7 games, and I was doing very well, and then I started paying attention. And
you were the taco. I mean, I'm not even in this fantasy football league. I'm in a different fantasy football league. But people in your fantasy football league were like, oh yeah, I've got Randy. He's the taco. And I was like, oh, he's the taco. And for those of you that don't know what the taco means, it has to do with the television show The League, which is based around fantasy football. And the taco was always the seal, the baby seal for the fantasy football league game.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, that's pretty bad. No, I did really well a couple of years ago.
Did you pick the lineup based on the team's colors?
No, my wife. So okay. So my wife. So we won't talk about it too much. So my wife, like 5 years ago, was in a fantasy football league with me, right? And she picked players by how good looking they were. And so she doesn't really know much about football, right? So she ends up, I swear to God, basically picking the New England Patriots when they went like 17-1. So she picks like Tom Brady, she picks Wes Welker, she starts picking up all these dudes, and I'm like, are you just picking the Patriots? She goes, I don't know, I think he's good looking, I'm gonna take him. And he's good looking, I'm gonna take him. I'm like, what? You're gonna get creamed. Nope. Nope. The way fantasy football goes, it's just like gaming. When the new person walks in and picks everything just based on whatever, their dice rolls are great.
Yep.
My wife would show up, and your guy would get injured. Your quarterback would go down in the first quarter, and Tom Brady would go off for 50. And you're like, oh, okay, that seems fair.
And it would be Brady to Welker, of course.
Yeah. It would be Brady. Yeah. And I think she had, so literally that year I think she had Brady, Welker, Gronk.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was like the year where they just, I don't know, I think it was that year, but I don't know. But yeah, she ended up winning our fantasy football ring, and she's like, "Oh, I won." I'm like, "Did you not set your lineup anymore?" She's like, "I stopped setting it like
I said it, forget it.
I never changed it." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
You're like, you didn't consider bye weeks. You didn't consider this.
No. And I would tell her that.
What's a
like,
bye week?
You got to swap your players out. Oh, this person's on the waiver wire. She's like, what? Huh? None of her players got hurt. Nothing happened to her starting lineup. It hurts your soul, okay? And then basically, like when you do fantasy football, you're like, well, I gotta have a player on bye on week 10, 11, 9, 8. You don't want to have them all in 1 week. No, you actually, I think you do. Because my wife basically lost one game, and it was when the New England Patriots were on a bye, and then they came off with bye, and then blah, 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 blah. Clubbing.
Yeah. Because I think that's a lot like Infinity when you have your big tanky tank tag or somebody that's got the armor 9 or whatever, and you roll armor saves, it's 1-1-1-3. It's like, son of a bitch.
Oops. Yeah. All right. I think we're probably good then.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
TableTop Game and Hobby, located at 9156 Metcalf Avenue in Overland Park, Kansas, zip code 66212, has for over 25 years been the Kansas City area's premier game store, specializing in non-electronic games, carrying a massive variety of board games, miniature games, role-play games, classic games, and gaming accessories. Stop by, see what we have to offer, or give us a call at area code 913-962-4263, or visit us online at tabletopgameandhobby.com.
Background music. Flying Species. The Yellow Flying Cog. The use of these human works of music is granted under the current Creative Commons license terms and agreements. From the freemusicarchive.org from the artists as listed. Thank you.